Welcome to The Mystic Lens, a podcast by Current Collective Church where we explore the spiritual path through stories of transformation from real people in our community and explorations of Christian tradition through a mystic perspective. Our hope is that these conversations will help us feel even more connected to God, ourselves, and each other, inspiring us to live more expansively from the well of living water within. To learn more or connect with us further, visit thisiscurrent.org.
Daniel, welcome to the Mystic Lens podcast, and we are starting from the origin of your story because I think that's where every good story begins. Is what kind of house did you grow up in? What was the framework of did you grow up with a sort of faith, and was there anything more than Enya in your early life?
It was just Enya, me in a room alone. Okay, so I was born to my mom and my dad. That's a weird way to phrase that. I had two parents when I was a kid. We were originally in Waco, Texas, and they met in Crew in college. Both my parents were Christians. Whenever they met, they were friends and then got married. Had my sister and I, and I give all this because the answer to spiritual climate and context as a kid is complex and kind of integrates all this. So They were married. We were involved in a church for a period of time, Bible church, which is I think like a branch of the Baptist church in Texas. And for a period of time when I was a kid, we were missionaries. So we lived in London for about 6 months to my memory, and then 2 years in Kenya. Also Enya.
There you go.
Terrible joke. And my dad was a missionary doctor, and my mom was a missionary, I guess like stay-at-home mom, but she did a lot of like relational work with women in the villages that we lived at, and men, I guess. So there was kind of a pretty big footprint spiritually for me of like, we are on a mission for God and we're going to go do this thing. And I mean, I was like 5. So yeah, most of my memories of Kenya are very like whimsical, magical. I remember a lot of like silly things. And I have a lot of really funny stories of, especially when I was like a little kid. Apparently my parents would go meet people that they were trying to like build relationships with. And the people would be like, oh, you're Daniel's parents. Because I'd already gone and met them. I just wander the neighborhoods like a psycho. So we moved back to the States after 2 years because my parents started having issues in their marriage. And then eventually decided to get divorced. We all moved back to Texas. And I grew up primarily with my mom having primary custody, still involved at the same church. And my dad... pretty much immediately after the divorce, I didn't find out until about 4 years later that my dad had came out as gay and was living in Austin and then Dallas. We were living in Waco. And he had partial custody, joint custody. So we would hang out with him sometimes. It's a long answer to a short question, but.
No, this is what I want.
Okay.
This is the perfect, yes, this is great. And take all the space you need.
My mom, I was raised in the church primarily. So I remember being involved in small group. I remember doing Awana.
Yeah.
People know what that is. I remember I did not like my youth group. I remember there was like a singles group that my mom was involved with that we ended up actually meeting a married couple that was over that singles group. Classic move. That I'm still friends with to this day.
Really?
So the only people that I still hang out with in Waco, Texas.
Was that all the Bible church there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Was,
Bible churches are pretty strict, man. I mean, they're like fundamentalist in some of the most extreme ways, right?
Yeah, they definitely had. There was, I think, something for me when I was growing up, especially. There was a lot of. I mean, obviously, you're dealing with people, so like it would be hard for me to paint with a broad brush and say like Bible churches are like this. I could tell you what the Bible church I was in was like. That there's kind of like a mixed variety, but I remember like some of my childhood friends having like arguments in my, I think I was like 11 or 12, and concept of evolution was like introduced to me for the first time. And I had a conversation with my friend's dad and got like a talking to about how ridiculous it would be for someone to believe in evolution. Not that I'm trying to make a statement on that, but just like that dynamic even happened, and like was given a bunch of Ken Ham YouTube videos, and that's
fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. I mean, to their credit, like I think that this is a big part of who I am, is like I can always see things. I want to see things from everyone's side. And I think there was a lot of people in that environment that were really marvelous, wonderful people. These people who I had sleepover with their kids at their house, and like birthday parties that they would host for me. And I think it was difficult to kind of deal with that dissonance in partnership with like, these were the people that kicked my dad out of the church, in part because of the marriage, also because he was gay. These are the people that like later on there was a huge drama that went down in regards to women in leadership in the church. And like the church had this huge schism. And I think that there was, strictness is a good word. I think there was a lot of adherence to like a culture of certainty and kind of trying to find where those lines lie. But yeah, I was actually, I probably would have said to most people, and I think I still stand by this, that I identified as like an agnostic atheist, probably leaning more agnostic all the way through the end of high school. Even though I was like going to church, my mom would make me go to church. I would go to like Christian summer camps and have these like moments of conversion or like, and I mean, I don't say that reductively. Like I really believe I experienced God and the divine in those moments. It would be obtuse of me to say otherwise. But I think that there was a lot of, it's really difficult to articulate the exact feeling. There was just a lot of dissonance. Like it's silly to say this, but this was so real in my like high school mind. So I was like, I don't want to follow God because that means I'm going to have to go back to my home after this summer camp and play less World of Warcraft. And I really want like, and I'm going to have to like not eat the food that I want to eat. And I'm not going to like get to look at pretty girls at school. Like I had this idea in my mind now that's like laughable. That was so narrow and minute. And like, I don't know. I just feel like I could say now, God is just so much more expansive than me not playing World of Warcraft as much. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous that that's the gospel that I believed, you know? Even though I don't say that to make fun of me being a high schooler. That's part of growing up.
It's part of it. And so you were going to a youth group and not really vibing with it. You were in a different place. Was that just more so because your mom wanted you to go? And I'm just curious too, because I think there are people in our space that just can really relate to some of those early formative years. Some people listening are probably having to Google what is youth group, you know. You were spared, friend. But no, there was great things about it. There really was beautiful and great things about it. But I'm curious, like, was that something that you felt like was more forced upon you at that point, or what was some of the early framework for that?
I think when I remember youth group, I think my mom would make me go because it was like Wednesday nights, and I think she had work. I don't remember exactly, but I often felt, I don't think I've ever really ruminated a lot on youth group. That's an interesting question.
Yeah. Here we are.
Yeah, here we are. I've ruminated about a lot of my other church experiences, but I don't think a lot about youth group. I think it felt weird. Like, I think the fundamental desire of a lot of youth group, I think, is to help youth, that sounds so corny, to help like kids connect with God as best they can and provide them a safe environment to like be kids and be teenagers. Especially like the church community I came from in Dallas. That was a lot of their youth group system is like, they have at least one worker for every 2 youth, and they partner relationally a lot. So it's
Wow.
like this leader meets with like these 2 kids weekly, is involved in their life, oftentimes in like a semi-mentoring capacity, but really not just mentoring. That makes it sound like transactional, really just like relationally, to kind of build, to have a network, an organism, a body of Christ. But I think for me, it was a lot of like, all the cool, hot kids from my high school went to the youth group, and I was neither cool nor hot in high school or middle school. And so I think I just felt a lot of like, these are not my people on multiple levels.
Yeah.
I think like socially, they weren't my people. I think spiritually, I mean, honestly, I think all those people, like you're saying, people that could be listening to this, were probably some of those kids as well. I think all of them wanted someone to walk with them, to process this stuff. And I think I just had the just enough not social ingratiation with other people to like, to fit in, to kind of, I stopped going, I think when I was like 14 or 15. Yeah, I just think I never really fit in every sense of the word. It wasn't enough for me to say like, oh, I believe in this because it's good or it's true, or because I wanted people to approve of me socially. Like, I think I've always felt that on some level. If I'm going to like believe in something spiritually, it's not on behalf of someone else. Even for like girlfriends, I don't think that's ever, maybe I'm talking out of my ass, but I don't think that's ever been a thing for me of like, I'm going to do this to get with a girl.
Yeah. So you aren't into it as much. When is the point that you come back around to get into having some sort of interest in an engaged faith?
Around the end of high school, my brother-in-law, now I think he was just my sister's boyfriend at the time, gave me a book called Total Truth by Nancy Pearcey. I think I still have it. I would compare it. It's very similar, I think, to C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. I think C.S. Lewis's is a bit more. I think her book leans more scientific, and his book leans a bit more like spiritual and metaphysical, maybe is a better word. But her book, kind of the premise of the tagline is like, if we believe Christianity to be a total truth, then it ought to encapsulate the entirety of our experience. And if it doesn't, then it's not something worth believing in, if it can't account for all the things that we see in life and in the world. And I think it was one of the first times I'd engaged with someone who had professed as a Christian, being honest about their experience of the world directly, and being willing to say like, if this isn't the case, then we shouldn't be doing this. Yeah. The extent that I'd had that was like Paul saying like, if the crucifixion never happened, then all this means nothing, you know, but it didn't really feel like there weren't many Christians I'd experienced up to that point in my life, or people of faith that I experienced that were willing, I guess, to like test God, like that they saw God. I would phrase this now in my current worldview, like that really believed that God was big enough to handle their subjectivity. I don't think I'd ever experienced someone do that. And so the book is good. It's not like, it wasn't like life shattering, but it was just enough to like get my soul over the line of like, okay, maybe this is something I should think about more. And I mean, candidly, I think I think I said this recently at Current, like, I think I wanted someone to prove me wrong. I think on some level, everyone who ends up at a place like Current wants someone to come along to prove them wrong. Like the agnostic, not to speak in like broad sweeping terms, but I think there's something within us that's like, please, like, prove me wrong that there is a God, because I feel like I felt something and I think it's there, but it's like, yeah. So I think I really wanted that. And so right over that summer, I experienced a pretty drastic transformation. Like I lost a lot of weight because I was like running. I was running. And I read that book, and then I think I read Mere Christianity, and I read a bunch of other kind of.
And this is after high school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Summer after high school.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was kind of the first, to answer your question, the initial like, there's something here.
Yeah.
I think there's something here.
Specifically with Christianity. Like you're opening up because it opened you up maybe to God in a new way, challenging God. And then you were considering this in a more sincere and authentic way in your Christian faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the words I would say now is that it was I finally felt like someone was putting words to the like experience of, it sounds so trite to say like the experience of the divine or so woo-woo, but like the experience of the divine.
You're in safe space speaking like that.
Yeah.
So.
Experience the divine that I'd had.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I would go to these summer camps and I'd pray, and I would be I'm a very like emotional person. I'd be so emotionally like affected, and I would cry. And I don't think that was just, I don't know, what's the word for like just emotional love bombing or manipulation. Like I think there was something within me that was really, I don't think, moved. I know that there was something within
There's
me
something that was moved. Yeah.
So I think that was the first time someone had given me an inkling of a worldview that could satisfy that craving within me. And I think on some level, that's what I've been chasing ever since, is this like, I know that there's, not that I'll find it. I think that, but we'll get to that. I'm assuming. Yeah. But just a worldview that's expansive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. And then you go to college.
Yeah.
And what was that experience like for you?
So my freshman year, I got involved with a church in Dallas. I went to college at UT Dallas. And that church was also a Bible church. I think it was called Dallas Bible Church.
Of course. What else would it be called?
Yeah. And they were awesome. There was a guy that I got partnered with. I specifically sought out a mentor I don't know why. I think I was like, I don't know. I don't remember why I asked. I just asked for a mentor, and I got partnered with this guy named Dick Simmons. I'm name dropping him because he changed my life in some ways. And he kind of discipled, I think is the word that Christians would use. I would probably still use that word. Yeah. He really just like poured into me spiritually. I think he was the first Christian in the flesh that I met who like loved God and meant it and lived it, but also was like just crazy enough that I was like, I want to be like you someday.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he possessed this kind of like, I don't know, he would say things sometimes that were just, at the time, just like rattled me. I'd never heard Christians say stuff like that. Like he would say, one of the quotes that's always stuck with me is he'd said like, every time we pray, God moves time and space. There was this analogy he once gave me about like the crucifixion of Christ and like about like a river. It's been a while, but I remember sometimes it's like things just like they wedge themselves in your soul.
Yeah,
you can't articulate them. You're just like, this is it.
Yeah.
I think I saw
the knowing is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like he was one of the first people I think that really I was able to just like receive so much from spiritually.
Yeah.
I wasn't involved in the church community that I eventually got involved in that year. But he was very formative to me. So, and then around my sophomore year, I started getting involved with an organization called Focus, Fellowship of Christian University Students.
They love their acronyms, dude.
Love them.
So
not
good.
to be confused with the Fellowship of Catholic University Students.
Ah,
also Focus.
That's right. That's right.
But they met, I kind of got involved with them through a friend I had freshman year. And I mean, there's a lot I could say about Focus and how much it changed my life. I think that was kind of from like sophomore year through the end of my senior year. And then even post-college, this was the church community that kind of helped not initially plant, but really poured into Focus as an organization and helped it to bloom, is the church that I was involved with in Dallas before I moved here, called the Dallas Metro Family of Churches, I think. But Focus, I think, was an environment where I just, like my sophomore year, I was discipled by another guy named Sean, so much like the guy from my freshman year, Dick. Sean was just, I mean, still to this day, just like wears Christ on his skin. I don't know if I have better metaphors than he's one of those people that you meet and you're like, you're doing it, man. Whatever you're locked into, get me on that. Like you just have this presence that's so divine. And I think Sean was one of the first people I really felt like dreamed for me on behalf of me, particularly spiritually. I think Sean saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. And I think that relationship really captured, even to this day, like when Christians talk about like the disciples of Jesus and stuff, I think I see like a glimpse of like what maybe was going on. Yeah. It wasn't just about like an agenda. It was about a relationship. Yeah. I think that Jesus dreamed for these men far beyond themselves.
Totally.
So yeah. And then like, I mean, later years of Focus, I led small groups. I did the whole Christian 9 yards.
And this is kind of what I want to start getting to.
Yeah, please.
So I want people to know your background. I want people to know your story. I want you to feel like you can mention some of those formative moments. But to me, I think that, and I want to get to you moving here, but if I could just interject.
Yeah, please.
What I see is there's been this pattern of people that you associate every fresh move that God has had in your life.
Yeah.
Every single time that we've hung out, you name people and you name moments.
Yep.
And you look back in reflection, and when you think about a new chapter in your faith or spirituality, you associate a person as a catalyst of that.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to highlight a little bit of that, because you have a clear pattern of recognizing the value of relationship, because then you have such an interest in doing that with other people.
Yeah.
That's like clearly your wheelhouse. That's clearly what you're focused on.
Yep.
And what I think is so important about that is we can't give from what we don't have. Like we have people make deposits into us. And like you mentioned how much the gentleman Dick poured into you and all of that. Although I have to really refrain my 13-year-old mind from making crude jokes.
Yeah.
I'll admit.
Every time I'm like, should I call him Richard?
I know. But then you talk about Christians. I just want to pour into you, brother. And you're like, I'm a minor. You're like, I don't think that's possible. Call me in a few years though. No. Nonetheless, like there's this real, like people have imparted things to you. And then now, and I'm sure that's always been there for you. We've just had a friendship for some months now, but just getting to know you more and more, there is this interest in imparting what you've been given. And you're still a young man, but you have this wisdom that because you've had ears to hear what people have been speaking into you all of these years. And it depends. People give wisdom and people don't have ears to hear it. And it just falls right off their back. And so I think what's fascinating just listening to you now, and again, I have kind of a cheat code, if you will, for a gaming analogy. A cheat code is we've been hanging out and talking anyways.
You know my lore.
Yes, outside of this. And so it's like, you have this clear pattern of relationship as being the catalyst for each moment of growth in your life. And so I'm curious, a few different directions that we could go that hopefully we can get to all of them. But well, I guess I should just first say, like, I don't know, whenever I'm sharing some of that, like, what's kind of churning for you before I just start bulldozing a new direction here? And sit with it, man. It's okay.
It's interesting. I don't know if anyone has ever articulated that to me before. It's funny because I've realized a lot of times that I've had conversations with people working in ministry, friends of mine who are like pastors who are trying to like get things off the ground, to get people to have skin in the game. When I've led a small group with someone and they were frustrated that people weren't showing up. My first answer is, whether directly or indirectly, always relationship. Like, I'm like, okay, have you spent time with these people one-on-one? I'm very axiomatic, which may have not been revealed yet in our relationship, but I have a lot of axioms. One-on-one is how it's done. I got a lot more in the holster, but I believe that, like, not just believe, like, I know it in my bones that people change in relationship. They just do. And people are, I think, most affected in relationship. But I don't know if I've ever really been able to articulate the spiritual DNA of why, but that is how I changed. But I do think on some level that's just, I don't know, that's my lived experience, and I've seen the fruit of it, that people, I don't know, I could ruminate on that. I could say that 20 different ways, but I won't. That's just relationship to me is what it's all about.
In those moments when people are seeing you for who you are and potentially calling out things that you don't even see. I remember my dad, I'm a PK, so I get all the behind the scenes of stuff and hearing of different staff members or people or whatever. And he would say about them that, he believes more in them than they do, and it's like, there's a moment though, I think, whenever you catch up to that belief that someone has for you, and that's a catalytic moment. Like, that's a transformational moment. What do you think, like, one of the most pivotal times were for you that you were able to see through the lens that someone else was seeing you through?
I remember a time in late college. I feel like change is oftentimes like this. Like, I'm reminded of, I'm just going to riff. This is a very raw train of thought. Change is oftentimes like this, where it's like you kind of like toil and toil and toil, and then just like one day on a Tuesday, some crazy shit happens and you're like, oh, this is this now. I remember having like a week in college where maybe it was like my amygdala finally finishing its maturing. That was college, and that's like 25 for dudes. I don't know. It felt like something in my brain and my soul like flipped on. I don't know if it was like a culmination of a lot of little decisions or if it was like something, but I felt like maybe Christians would say like was given the gift of wisdom, or that it like finally coalesced is maybe the way I would articulate it. The way that I can articulate myself now and talk about things and like connect things together, I don't think I had before then. At least in the particular permutation that exists now. And I remember seeing that very thing in Sean. And I think in hindsight, him seeing it in me, that I had the potential to be like that. I think, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. It's an answer to your question. I think recently in my life, I've always kind of grappled with like, I don't mind leading. I don't like leading from the front. And I really don't like being like recognized, like having a spotlight. Mm-hmm. The irony of me sitting in a spotlight is not lost on me. Turn it off. I'm kidding. Yeah, I've always kind of felt like, I don't know if it's a sense of inadequacy, but just a sense of like, I don't know. I don't know if I could articulate exactly what it is, but the feeling of leading has always felt kind of alien to me. But everywhere I go, I always end up with like a community of people that like look to me to lead. Mm-hmm. Like I have a book club now, and I think I've finally started to see a little bit what those people see in me, mm-hmm. and why they like trust me to lead.
Yeah.
And to make choices.
Are you sure you're not a 4 on the Enneagram and then a 9? Just curious.
Man, I've been told by many people that I'm a 4. The last time I took the test, it was a 923 are the top 3 numbers.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if I was a 4.
Forget the tests, dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
Feel it in your bones, you know. You mentioned earlier about how you're a very emotional person and you're moved in those times at different camps and conferences or whatever, and that was always my experience too. And I don't know if it's just the energy in the room, the heightened intention, whatever it is. I do think God meeting us in those moments, but you know, there's something to that I feel like is unique to someone who would live in the emotional triad of the Enneagram, you know? Yeah. So just as a sort of extra little thing to throw in there, just sit with it. You never know. But even like that, the leading thing, you know, like, dude, like we were going to a stand-up comedy thing, and one of my friends' wife, she was like, "Oh, you love speaking on stage to people." I'm like, hold on. Actually, I've had to talk myself. Like whenever I was younger, I could do it like nothing. Like I would preach at my dad's church, but it's because he cultivated this space that was familiar that I could go into. Yep. And I could just go up and, you know, parrot Mark Driscoll or parrot him or whoever, and it was fine. And I was safe in that space. But the minute I was out of that space, it's taken me a lot of like work and confidence and courage to be able to like follow the prompting of the gift and the calling that's there. Because I really tried for a long time not to. Like I wanted to, but I didn't. It's like podcasting was the thing, but then not. And then I don't know, like it's been an interesting thing. So just relating to you in that way that like, I think that and I'm 35, I'm almost 36. And I feel like it wasn't until my 30s that I really started to, it's actually a couple of years ago. Now it's been almost 3 years ago that I had a real transformational moment in time where I was like, you begin to just really see things with clarity. Kind of like what you were mentioning. It's like everything just kind of is. And then all of a sudden it's just like at a random moment in time. Mine happened to be walking in Venice Beach from this project that I was a part of. And I was just like, I am not supposed to be here. All the stuff I've been doing for the last year is not what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. And it was like, you know, like just a complete veer and turning off of that path onto the one that I know is supposed to be on. And it comes with a lot of fear and trembling and all this and that. And, you know, all that to say is an encouragement that like, I think you are stepping into seeing what people have seen in you. And I do just see the value of relationship that you have in particular. And you've not been shy about telling us at Current where we're missing that, you know? So
yeah, that's also, we can talk about that too.
You're like,
not specifically Current, but my tendency.
You're like, dude, this isn't happening over here. I'm like, I know, because I'm trying to hold all the plates. Here, take one. You know, it's like,
happily overjoyed to take one.
Okay, let's let's move a little bit. We're kind of veering off of, but I think we'll venture back onto our timeline. But I want to know, you had this, you have been in the Christian tradition, and are still, I think, only you can say for yourself, but you found us on Instagram and actually showed up in person. It's one thing to follow a profile and like a few posts and be curious. And it's another thing to show up in person. I tell people this all the time. I feel like a broken record, but I'm like, it's one thing to double tap. It's another thing to show up at the front door. You know what I mean? So like, what was it that interested you in this space from where you're at? And maybe you can give a little bit of backstory of like a runway of like, well, what brought you to this chapter?
I feel like it'd be easier if I started with the runway and then I get to like why I showed up at the doors of Current. In
our humble little ballet room.
Yeah. We should do ballet sometime. That would be so fun. Okay, I'm sorry. You got me distracted. Yeah, so when this is like such a wild story in retrospect. Right when I moved here, nope, it's not true. 2022 in the fall, I started building a friendship with my now roommate, Nick. And he was looking into going to his current grad program, which is with the Franciscan School of Theology. And his grad admissions counselor gave him Universal Christ by Richard Rohr as something. He's like, I think you're going to enjoy this after our conversation.
That's cool.
You should read this book. Yeah, the Franciscans are awesome. There's a lot I could say about that. But, and so Nick, we're like hanging out one day and he's like, hey, like I have this book. It's been really fun. I've been loving reading it. And I was like, Richard Rohr, where have I heard that name before? And I've had a couple of other experiences that are other stories for another time that are very similar to this, of like serendipitous things that like kind of like a bunch of little breadcrumbs that culminate in something marvelous. So I'm like, I know that name. And mind you, I had no exposure or context to like the mystic space, the Christian mystic space. My hearing of Richard Rohr was not from like that.
Yeah.
So I like go back to my house one day and I'm like walking, doing something. And I look at like a bookshelf that I have, one of those like really dingy little like Amazon diagonal bookshelves that are really aesthetic because I thought it was cool. I mean, I have aesthetic bookshelves now, but that's besides the point.
4. Just saying 4. Nines don't give a shit about that.
You should knight me at the end. And
it's fears and motivations, man. It's not aesthetics. Anyways, go ahead.
So I look on it and I have this book, Things Hidden, Scripture is Spirituality by Richard Rohr. And I remember, I think it was like my junior year of college, a friend of mine, she like randomly, this is totally on brand for her. She's like the weirdest communicator I've ever known. She like randomly one day, she's like, hey, I have this book. Do you want it? And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, like some Christian lady at my job, like wanted to give me this book and I don't want to read it. So do you want it? Cause I know you're like a Christian. And I was like, sure. So I take Things Hidden by Richard Rohr from this friend. That's somehow random. It survived the move from Dallas to California. Mind you, like I yeeted a bunch of things when I moved. I'm pretty like, especially when at the time I was again, like moving to California, I was like, I'm out of here in 3 years. Like I got to keep the things I have to a minimum. So survive the move. I have Things Hidden by Richard Rohr. I read it. Phenomenal book, very affecting. And I think that book was on the tail end of another sequence of my life where I'd read like Don Miller, Bob Goff, some of the people that are kind of in the deconstruction adjacent. Reformed, I think is what that movement is called. I don't remember.
I don't know. Bob Goff is just like way too happy about everything.
Yeah. I don't think he's a part of anything.
Yeah.
He belongs in every room.
Yeah.
But I read those books and those were kind of the first books that I was like, oh, there's Christian authors that are like nice and fun and relatable and not weird. Sorry, that's anyways.
I agree.
Yeah. And so I read that, and then that kind of started again, a kind of a like domino effect of a bunch of like these really weird serendipitous things. I was really into Pete Holmes as a comedian. I like listened, I think I was like listening to I was listening to You Made It Weird, and then he like interviewed Richard Rohr, and I was like, this man is turning up again. Is he hunting me? And then I like listened to Pete Holmes' audiobook or autobiography.
Yes, so
Comedy,
good.
Comedy Sex God, and he talked about how affecting that book was to him.
Big plug for that. If
seriously,
anybody, yeah,
such a good book. And I just had like a couple of these things, and so at the time, I mean, still involved in Christian spaces, involved with the church, on the worship team, working in kids ministry. And I've always, even at my old church in Dallas, I've always felt this feeling that just a feeling of like discomfort, that I don't really fit in this room. It's hard to articulate more than just that feeling. But yeah, it's just like this dissonance of like, this isn't the room. I think there is a room, but this is not the room that I really belong in. And so reading Richard Rohr, I found myself really respond to like, if I could be in a room with this man, I think that may be the room. And then, yeah, I just had more and more of these things as I got to know Nick, and he lives here. That's why I'm pointing that way. He read like Universal Christ and a lot of other of Rohr's work, and I just felt like there was kind of this trickle effect of like, I don't know. Again, it's like what I said.
Was his work confronting to you, or did it feel invitational?
Invitational, for the most part.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Freeing is the word I think I would say.
Okay.
I think the way I would phrase it, again, Comedy Sex God, Pete Holmes has this quote in it where he was like, I finally feel like I'm free from having to convince other people that I'm right about something, that I can just meet reality in front of me, and I can meet the person in front of me on their terms. And this isn't a fight of intellect. It's a meeting of wills.
Yes.
Like, it's just like this.
Amen.
It was so
Saint
freeing
Holmes.
for me. Oh, like it's because I've felt that burden so much of my life. Like there's parts of my story where I was a missionary kid, and then I remember going on mission trips as a kid and like praying for people's salvation with them, and feeling this dissonance of like, is this right? I don't know if this feels weird. Like it feels coercive. Yeah. And we could ruminate on that a lot, but I think reading a lot of Rohr's work, I think especially Things Hidden was so affecting because seeing how much this man loves the Bible, and almost like, it's the absurdity, I think, of a lot of critics of Rohr is that they say that like he reduces Christianity or tries to make it easy. And I would argue he heightens it.
Yeah.
And it's like Jesus on the Sermon on the Mount. He's like, you've heard it said this way. I tell you even more. Right. Rohr's love for the Bible is transcendent. Like the way he loves it and cares for it, it was so invitational for me to like actually like this thing that I grew up with hating and so bored with. Frankly, not even hating, just dissociated and over. Yeah. And then
when was the over it season? Because you have been attending another local church here in town. We won't name drop them if you don't want to, but another local church that's very evangelical, you know? So like, have you been interested more clearly you still are interested and have affinity for Christianity and Jesus, but like, where was the over it really? Has it been more of a social thing at this point for church, or is it really scratching a theological itch for you anymore?
I think we treat, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. I'll quote the Bible. I think we talk out of both sides of our mouth a lot about the Bible in evangelical circles. we have this like deep reverence for it. Oftentimes, like a lot of churches, I think, align themselves. None of this is a direct critique, just a rumination on the things that I see. Like, align themselves with this, like this. The Bible is the Word of God. Like we got to follow it to the T. What it says, we have to do. And then we have like sermon series, and we kind of like read through some parts of the Bible, or we like. I mean, the reality is that most churches have like 45 minutes to an hour in like a church that's really pushing the limits of their congregants to talk about a verse any given week. And for most people, that's their entire exposure to the Bible. This thing that's like, this is what I'm literally building my life on, piece by piece. And I remember feeling this dissonance a lot as a kid of like, we don't care about this thing nearly as much as we say that we do. We can pretend that we do. And maybe there are select few of us who do, like someone's grandma or whatever. Like, but I think it was so frustrating to be in these environments that so revered and heralded this thing that nobody really took seriously. And I don't mean like, I don't know. It's like the phrase of like, live your sermon. Like, if this is what you're going to build your life on, then do it.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then don't. That's fine. Just be honest. Like, I think one of the things that was so freeing about Roar, his engagement with the Bible, and my over itness is like, I want someone to give me a worldview that can like love and revere this thing, but not worship it so much that we create this like vacuum of this weird, like interdependent vacuum of relationship where every Sunday the pastor's begging their congregants to read their Bible in their free time and no one is doing it. It's just weird. Like, it's like,
weird.
I don't know. Those are very raw thoughts, but I think the over itness I had is like, all right, everybody turn. No, I'm not going to do the accent. Everybody turn your Bibles to chapter. I'm so used to the Southern accent. Turn your Bibles to John chapter 3. We're going to read verses 3-7. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
And the absurdity, especially now, the absurdity of like, let's look at this one small slice of this rich, marvelous, like library of texts and try to extract 3 points out of it that will be applicable to our lives and concise, that people can chew on. Like, I don't know. I have no better way to phrase it than like, I don't want to be a part of a
to me, I just couldn't be more bored.
Say again?
I couldn't be more bored.
Yeah.
Like, I just, and I mean this with like respect for people, because I understand everybody's wired different, and it takes, I'm a musician, so I think in terms of music, it's like there's different genres for different people. And, pop music is like just the widest, denominator possible for everybody to listen to. And it's like nobody like that has any musical awareness at all, like loves or thinks pop music is like really offering, the creative world a gift. You know what I mean? Like it's just like the most vanilla acceptable, like, I was watching a YouTube video. He was talking about coworker music. It's like just this, like, you put up with it. It's fine. It's a little obnoxious, but everybody has to get along with it, and it's like not really, you wouldn't choose on your own terms to hang out with that person, if you're using the analogy, or listen to it. But it's like, it's something everybody can kind of just agree on that's like not absolutely horrid. And I feel like church has kind of become that, as this like, how can we just be the most appealing to just the widest audience ever? And it just diminishes the value of all of it. Like, because you're not able to keep a sort of nuance and richness and creativity that happens whenever you just sort of like shave the edges off of it all just to make it fit, damn it, no matter what,
Yeah. Well, and it's, I I think it's hard because I do think on a fundamental level, I mean, I want people for this. I want people to know and love God. And I do think the Bible is like a marvelous transcendent vessel for that. But I think so often, I mean, I see this over and over again in so many spaces, but I think especially in my subjective experience with the evangelical space, the very thing we do to achieve something prevents us from doing it.
Yeah.
We try to make these systems that help people to engage with the Bible and engage with Scripture, and we try to make it easy, and we try to make it concise and palatable and 3 points. And by very virtue of doing that, we create a bunch of people who are biblically illiterate. Not that that's a bad thing in a vacuum, or bad thing by virtue, but we create the very opposite result.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's much I could say about just how much my love for Scripture has grown out of like understanding historical context, even being able to like treat the Bible like something that's deeply human.
Yeah.
And seeing like the blood, sweat, and tears on the page, and not having to live under this, like, again, being set free, not having to live under this assumption that the Bible is like, I don't know, this is a hot take for a podcast that people are going to watch, but like that people's hands were like possessed by God and writing down. Like it just feels so out of concert with the God I know and people that I know. I don't think that's how God works. And I don't think that's how people work.
Right.
I think God is like this marvelous, intrinsically intertwined being with us, not this like possessor that coerces us. That's, I don't know.
So what do you make of the Bible? I don't know how we're doing on time, but what do you make of the Bible now? And then we have a very unique approach, and I would love for you to speak a little bit to anybody that's been around the space. I say that there's people that usually come in through 2 doors. There's as many doors as you want to come into, but usually people are coming from more of the spiritualist or new age door. Other people come in through the door of, usually, as we saw with the Q&R recently, like a lot of people who have that, they were an evangelical or more mainline Christian context, some Catholic context, but you have this interest in this space, but we don't have a very orthodox take on things. There are some times that the Bible is referenced almost in passing. How is that landing with you? How is that in this season for you? How is that marinating with you?
I think the honest answer is that I'm still metabolizing it. I can think out loud about why that is the honest answer, but I think there's like a gut reaction within me. There's like a voice in the back of my head that's like, why aren't they reading the Bible every Sunday? Which is not my voice. So I use a different voice. Because I can like put faces to that voice. I don't know. I think that I feel like I have an answer that's very indirect. Not that I'm trying to avoid the question. No, I think it's just an indirect answer. I think that sometimes as Christians, I use we, not as an inclusive to like listeners, but for my own, it's easy for me sometimes to like say like they, and I want to associate myself with Christians because both to understand that I'm carrying both the shittiness and the goodness of Christians. I have both of those things in me, just like they do.
Yes.
Just like other Christians do and all of us do. But I think, dang it, my train of thought crashed. Hold up. The Bible. Yeah, we can have this fear. So much of like decision making in Christian communities is just rooted in fear.
Yes.
And I don't know what the answer is to a lot of those decisions exactly. But I do know that when we have the heart of fear, I think we're doing something wrong, or we're at least motivated by something wrong. And I see a lot of times this fear of like, well, what'll happen if we do this? What'll happen if we let a queer person be on staff? What'll happen if we let a woman be on staff? And we could argue all day long about whether it's biblical or not. And there are people who have landed on either side of a lot of those issues in the history of the church, let alone any other issue. And I guess there's a part of me that's trying to exercise just not yielding when there's like a fundamental spirit of fear informing something. And I could say that probably the best thing that would say like, oh, like we should be reading the Bible in this space is, I think, rooted in fear of what could happen if we don't.
Right.
I mean, candidly, I have the same reaction to like, I remember when we were at the meditation retreat, and you were like, for those of you who like see the Shruti box come out and there's a part of you that like clenches up, I like noticed that I was feeling a bit of that there was this part of me, not that it wasn't like judgment. It was like fear.
Yes.
Of like, is God here? Am I safe?
Right.
Is this like are we summoning the devil? Like,
right.
And it's obtuse to say that, but it's honest that there's like a part of me that clenches in fear. And I just feel like every time I've done that, and every time I've watched other people do that, they oftentimes end themselves up in a smaller room with less people. I think that is where that spirit leads us over and over again. I think it's part of why churches keep getting smaller and more people keep leaving, is because we're so afraid to let reality be what it is and to let other humans be who they are. So I think with current, like, I'm not bothered. I think I've wrestled. That sounds like disingenuous. I'm not bothered. It sounds like I don't really know what communal engagement with the Bible could look like. I do think that's something I'm intrigued by and passionate about.
Yeah.
But I think helping people in the same way that if I did a book study on one of Richard Rohr's books or Bob Goff's books, like I think part of being a mature spiritual person is learning to develop discernment and like, I don't know, to develop your spiritual intellect. I need a better word than that, but like just to develop your brain, to learn to like navigate life and spiritual waters.
Yeah.
I think one of the, I'll come sideways at New Age communities. I think one of the fallacies and weaknesses I can see in a lot of New Age communities is that they, rather than really trying to engage honestly with spirituality with their mind, they kind of yield that part almost entirely and just kind of go with the flow and yield to the waters, which I think is good. Don't hear me like saying that's just bar none bad, but I think it's something being in the yoga community for a long time and kind of seeing that, I've noticed how it's like, oh, like you're doing the same thing that we do as Christians, just on the other side. You have a different answer for it. And we both, all of us together, need to learn to use our minds and our hearts to like navigate through this stuff together. Spirituality is hard and tricky. Hopefully that's not too off brand.
No, I think it's great. And I'm grateful that you bring some of that up, because I mean, a space like ours gets branded as a New Age space often because we don't have a central liturgy that includes the scripture all the time. I think if people would like get to know me for a second, they'll know that there's probably more than just like, little clips or, weird graphics that I put on the Instagram. You know what I mean? Like there's more going on here than just a New Age space, but I think that one of the things that both of those spaces have in common is they're obsessed with their ego, ironically, both of which are so bent on convincing you that you aren't, in yoga spaces or New Age spaces. I think Christianity, they're like, it's not you, but Christ who lives in you, and it's like, but yet they both in practice are consistently propping up their own sort of ego environment. And so I think like, not to say that we're perfect or that we got that all figured out. I hope we're figuring it out, but I think that's everybody should be.
Oh, I thought you meant you and I, we. I
mean, we.
I don't have a statement on current specifically, but
yeah, but hey, we are current, man.
Yeah,
this is
true.
it.
It's true.
We are it together. So I think that I feel like what you're talking about is important because a lot of people do get us confused with new age spaces, and I love integrating scripture. I think it has a place. I think it's important. I just think that, and this is where the fear comes in of Christianity, is the minute that you just say like, yeah, but I'm not going to worship it like an idol, and it's not God. You know, people get very uncomfortable really quickly, you know, so it's interesting. So a lot more I could say to that, but I'll digress. I'm curious I'm not sure if we should potentially be coming to a close or not. It feels like we should probably do that at some point. At some point.
We talk through the night.
Hours later. No, but I think this is really good, and I appreciate you sharing, and I want you to be candid, and I want to catch you off guard with some of these things, because that's what I love about talking and hanging out with you.
Honest.
And anybody that comes on here, like, I want to know this sort of natural, instinctual, this is how I really feel about this. Yeah, that's important, because that's the authentic expression right there. That's what's really happening. That's how we really feel, for the most part. But I think for you, like, you have been in this space, and you seem, how you just answered, like, you seem like you're processing still, and you're understanding, like, kind of what's the culture of this place, what's there. I had a guy recently tell me afterwards, he's like, I'm just having trouble because I just don't know, like, what your theology really is at the end of the day, and I don't know if I can hang, because I don't know where you're at,
Yeah.
Well, that's fair. I totally get that, but I think something that I always mention is to be like-hearted more than like-minded. And that's like a motto around, it's become a thing, because you feel resonance more so than you understand our ideas meeting each other. And I think that's what you're saying in Christianity is, like, that's when the rooms get smaller, because it's like, oh, well, I don't know, Frank is now a post-trib person, so now I have to go hang out with the pre-tribulation people, or whatever it is. And there's a resonance, though, that you feel with people when it's like, we're on a similar path. It's going to look different, but there is a sort of this presence of God that continuously is pulling at the core of who I am, inviting me deeper into intimacy. That's what I see as, like, the unifying factor. And no matter what door people come through, that's the unifying factor: a sincerity, an intimacy, a choosing of living a spiritual life that isn't so concerned with the fakeness, frankly, of both new age spaces and churches. So
I'm reminded of man, I'm just like an aggregation of quotes from other people. I'm okay with that. Reminded of a quote by Pete Holmes where he talks about his daughter. This is the end of his autobiography. He talks about his daughter when she's first born, and he looked into her eyes and he called it the luminous emptiness. He also, like, phrases it like the thisness, experiencing the thisness of life. There's something I think I talked with Nick about this recently, something that is so affecting to me about current. And I don't say this to prop up current's ego. I think it's like an environment that you cautiously fight for and curate. Curate sounds weird. Fight for. People that are drawn to environments like this, I would posit people that are drawn to authors like Richard Rohr have really fought, oftentimes through people who told them that they shouldn't fight and give up have fought to really be where they are and to find God. I would say to really find God and to be in touch with him. And ironically, I don't know, it just makes me, it's something that just really moves me a lot. I've always felt this desire of like, I want to be with the people who have fought tooth and nail to find God because I know that they want to be with him.
Yeah.
And I want to be around those people. And maybe it's current today and it's somewhere else tomorrow, but I think that there's something about, I don't know, man, there's something about that that's just it. It's the luminous emptiness. It's this like thing that draws us, all of us, to these rooms. It's the reason people show up to church on Sunday all across America. It's like this, there's thisness, and I know it's there. I got to find it.
Yes.
What's so cool about Current, though, especially, is that it's oftentimes these people who've been in those spaces, like you're saying, whether it be New Age or evangelical or Catholic or whatever, they've been in those spaces and they didn't fit, and they still fucking fought to find a space where they did.
Dude.
And that is like, I'll take that any day.
Yes, dude. Oh, it's so good. Thank you for that reflection, because I think that's been true of my own experience of knowing that there is a space that I can exist fully and authentically, and not finding it anywhere.
Yeah.
And being like, there's got to be other people who feel like they don't fit in these spaces either. Yeah. And I just feel like there's just I'm always just humbled to meet and hang out with people like you and just people in the space, because it was a lonely road for a long time. And it's like the fact that I can come and hang out and look at your incredible Lego structures and have these conversations as an encouragement to others who are sorting their way through it, I think is a gift to me, first and foremost. So I appreciate you. And I feel like there's so many other things that I wanted to talk to you about on a podcast that we didn't talk about.
That's okay.
But this is why I feel like we just need to do more of these, you know. But as we land the plane, as I always say, I'm curious if you would just, how do I want to say this? I feel like there was a little piece of your timeline that we missed from how you got here to San Diego, even that we started talking about in the first take. But there is and I was mentioning this, and I don't know that we talked about it in the beginning of this episode here, of you took a chance and you moved across the country. And, I moved here almost a decade ago with wife, 2 kids, just sold things, gave things away. I'm cheap, so I had too small of a moving truck. So I had stuff on the front lawn of the house we sold, whatever, But there's a particular, and this goes to what you're searching for, the fighting for thing. There is a temperament that is there. And for those who are also sensing that drive to have that experience of knowing who God is, and that experience of revelation, I think that comes like from your experience of moving here and then taking that in an analogy to seeking and moving in the places where you feel called to go. What would be some reflection on that, and maybe an impartation as other people who are navigating?
There's a couple of things that come to my mind. I'm trying lately in my life, I've been trying to like trust my intuition. That's similar to what you said earlier. So the first 2 things that come to my mind, first one is that God is really weird, and he is a very peculiar lover. I think that has been my experience of him or her or it, whatever you want to call it. of Yahweh. And that he oftentimes, I don't know, there's something about, I find I oftentimes get wrapped around like the fantasy of being able to predict what may come, or being able to like anticipate, oh, like if I do this and I apply to these jobs, then I'll get the job and then I can move and then I'll be able to chase my dream. And then if I go to this dating event, then I'll meet a partner and then we can get married and have kids. And there's this like, almost like I'm an author of my life, or that I'm like, I don't know. I've found it to be true that God is remarkable at partnering with me in my life as I choose and make decisions rather than the other way around. And I think I lived in a lot of the other way around in my life. I think some of this is just who I am and how I'm wired. I can be paralyzed by a lot of indecision.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can feel that. This is just raw ruminations. I think I would
good.
imagine a lot of people probably feel that at a level of like waiting for God to do something.
Yeah.
And the irony is that I have like kind of, for lack of a better phrase, waited for God to do something. But while I waited, I did something. I like lived my life. I spent time with friends. I invested in things that were good. Like, I think that there's something so marvelous and sacred and good about just living. And on some level, if we really believe, as Christians especially, if we really believe the Bible to be true, that is it, that just living is enough. If God sees us through Christ, through sacrificial atonement, or whatever you want to say, and we're already good, then I think God just wants us to live. We don't need to do anything. And I think that I could say that that's all the more true in my life, is that there's just something about living that's good.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this, reminding myself in real time that that's true, because I am not good at like holding that truth in my soul. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. I think the second thing that comes to my mind is another axiom. If you get God right, he'll get you right. I don't know why that sticks with me so much, but I think understanding God, the fear of God, is the beginning of wisdom. Understanding God is where we find ourselves. I think that there's something about pursuing him wholly with ourselves in every sense, whether that's meditation. There are many things I could ruminate on about what that looks like pragmatically and practically, but something about finding and seeing God as he is how we learn to find and see ourselves, and that he has a marvelous way of leading us to ourselves. I think for people who feel that degree of like wanderlust, I don't know, I wish I had more wisdom than to say like, God has a way. He's a peculiar lover.
Yeah.
He's so particular, the ways that he gives things to me, and that he takes things away from me, and that he brings change into my life, and he answers some of my prayers and he doesn't answer other ones, and he humiliates me. As much I could say about that. He's a very peculiar lover. One of the I hopefully that term is not a one laden with weirdness. I mean that sincerely in the way that God loves me. Not sexually, but that there's something about him that's just so untamable and unpredictable and tender, and
we should do a whole nother episode just on that topic.
Okay.
Like, that subject would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that. I did not realize that was in me until I started talking about it, but
yeah. Peculiar lover. Not the name of your new indie band. Oof. But should be.
You want to have a band where every single member is sleeping with every single groupie? Name it Peculiar Lover. I'm just going to tell you that right now. The freaks will show up.
I'll leave that one for you, man. Oh, that's a good impartation. I think that's good. I think in that I hear just keep walking and you'll be quite surprised.
You will be quite surprised.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was recording some stuff for the Patreon earlier today, and something I was just struck by was how Jesus was just walking around doing things. Like, a lot of people think he had this real, like, great agenda, and sometimes I think he did, and sometimes I think he was just, like, cruising the streets.
Yeah.
Just, like, see what shakes down. And then Zacchaeus comes into a tree.
Falls out of a tree in front of him.
And he's like, we're going to your house tonight.
Dinner.
And all of the disciples are like, shit, this guy is not who we want to hang out with. He's like, this is the dude I'm kicking it with tonight. And it's like, but it's like, okay, this incredible moment of transformation happens. He didn't go looking for that. He's just walking down the street.
Yeah.
And I think that's so much of our life. It's like, just walk. Like, I love to balance it out, I suppose, is the Zen story of the disciple that seeks enlightenment, and he goes for his koans and things, and then one day the master asks him some koan, and he just gets up and leaves and goes back to what he was doing. And it's like, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water, and after, chop wood and carry water. Like, you just keep living with openness, and you'll be surprised about all that unfolds.
Yeah.
And Peculiar Lover. That's a great band name, man.
It is.
So
yeah, I could ruminate on that for. I don't think I've ever articulated that. Sorry, not to keep yapping, but I've never articulated that specific feeling that way. But I think that's just been because I think I've been on both sides of the fence of like in an evangelical space, like I know all the things about God. I know that I can predict the ways he's going to act because I know he's just and I know he's merciful and I know he's loving. Like there's these things that we say about him.
Yeah.
And then I've been on the other end of like far deconstruction reaches of like, you can't know anything. The universe is not like it's nothing. And there's a million gods. And I feel like I've kind of ping ponged back to a space now of like, I'm in a relationship with a freak.
Yeah.
And he's the best freak I could ever be in a relationship with.
Yes,
and
dude.
I love that reconciles with the world and reality that I experience, because this world makes no sense. This reality makes no sense. And I can worship a God who made this reality because he makes no sense.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. That's really good. Well, dude, thank you so much for sharing. And this is definitely only the first time that we're having a conversation. I feel like we need to have some like subject topic things that we cover, because I feel like there's stuff emerging. But I want people to know some of your backstory, some of your history, some of the frameworks that you come from. That's a big part of this podcast. Is the intention behind it was that people could listen to it and then actually see a person in real life and be like, hey, that part of your story was like mine. And now all of a sudden people are friends. So that's why I initially started to record a podcast. Also because, as you experienced, well, not to call you out, just I think witnessed people to come up on stage our magic carpet and and tell their story is intimidating. And this is a lot easier and longer form to be able to process and ask questions. And, people aren't ready to go to the Naked Cafe, which for those that aren't in San Diego listening to us, that's an actual place. If for the other, you go to Black's Beach.
Yeah. Naked Cafe.
But, everybody can listen and watch this on their own time and get to know you a little bit better. And I hope people listening to this listen to some of the other episodes. And if people have not joined me for a conversation yet, you should, because this is how we all get to know each other more. And it's a wonderful medium to have in this modern age. So Daniel, thank you so much for joining me for a conversation. And if you see Daniel in person, come and talk to him about his peculiar lover.
I'm really going to regret saying that. People are going to be like, I also have a peculiar lover. His name is Steve. I'll be like, tell me about him.
People are going to need some help.
Introduce me to Steve.
Yeah, that's so funny. Well, thank you so much, my friend.
Yes, thank you. I'm very humbled to be on this.
Yeah, man. So good.